The look on her face when the county surveyor called out the coordinates, it wasn't anger, not yet, it was pure unadulterated shock. See, she had spent 6 months trying to prove that my house was stealing her land, only to discover, right there, with the cameras rolling and the officials watching, that her architect had made a tiny $300,000 mistake. A mistake that meant the corner of her brand new, custom-built glass box was sitting squarely on my dusty, old inheritance. My name is Ethan Cole, and this is the story of how I bought peace by winning a piece of my neighbor's house. I got the property, an old craftsman house we called the Cedar House, after my Uncle Leo passed. Honestly, I didn't need to move. I had a good, if cramped, life downtown, but there was something about the place, you know? It sat on this weird, hilly lot, pre-zoning era, wrapping around a thick patch of wild pines near the edge of Creekwood County. It felt like history, like quiet, and after the city, quiet felt like $1 million. I spent the first few months doing nothing but sanding, painting the porch swing, and just enjoying the silence. I was in a bubble. Then the glass box next door sold, and the bubble popped. Enter Veronica Thorne. I saw her on moving day, a platinum blonde hurricane in an aggressively tailored blazer, wielding a clipboard like a weapon, yelling at 2 guys trying to navigate a narrow walkway with a ridiculously ornate marble fountain. I knew the type immediately. Sharp edges, zero charm, all business, even on a Saturday. She came over that evening, marching across my lawn like she was conducting a forced inspection. I was covered in sawdust, holding a hammer, looking exactly like the guy who didn't want to be bothered. "You must be the new owner," she said, offering this wide, plastic smile that never quite reached her eyes. "I'm Veronica Thorne, just moved in next door. I work in high-end real estate." I try to keep it polite. "Ethan Cole. Good to meet you, Veronica." She scanned my porch, and the whole energy shifted. It was like she was performing a mental appraisal of my life choices. "You have quite the irregular lot here," she noted, tilting her head. "Yeah, it's old," I replied, trying to soundboard. "Pre-zoning. Irregularity is the charm." And then came the line, the first drop of poison in the well. "Oh, is that so? Have you by chance had the boundaries verified recently?" Now, nobody makes it their third sentence unless they're looking for trouble. I told her I had the original plat, a recent survey copy, everything was ironed out. "Why? Is there an issue?" "Oh, no reason," she said, a little too quickly, her eyes flickering toward the aged stone wall marking our properties. "Just, my deed looks a little tight near that back corner. I'll double-check my paperwork, of course." That should have been it, right? A minor, awkward interaction. But the next morning, there were little strips of fluorescent pink tape tied around the base of my oldest cedar tree. And the day after that, a bright orange flag was planted halfway through the edge of my raised vegetable garden. It felt petty, annoying, but still manageable, until she showed up holding a manila folder, wearing sunglasses large enough to hide a small sedan. "I've had a chance to look at my initial filings," she announced, over the sound of my lawnmower. "I cut the engine, and I believe you may be encroaching." I was encroaching on my property. She pointed confidently to a new row of flags that went straight through the corner of my detached wood shop, a building that had stood there since 1958. That's when the blood pressure started to rise. "Veronica, these lines haven't changed since Eisenhower was in office. My uncle lived here for 40 years. Nobody's had an issue." "Well, perhaps nobody bothered to check, Ethan," she countered with that thin, superior smile. "Some of these older properties were never properly aligned with Creekwood County's GIS system. I know this. I deal with surveys every day." That was her card, the real estate angle, the license to harass. She made it clear she was requesting a boundary inspection, just to clarify things. "If everything's in order, you've got nothing to worry about, right?" It was the most condescending piece of passive aggression I'd ever witnessed. She walked off, and I swear, I could hear a timer ticking down on a metaphorical bomb she'd just set. I didn't sleep that night. I dug out every piece of paper I owned, plat maps, deeds, the recent survey from 2 years ago. Clear lines, no easements, no encroachments. Everything confirmed my position. But Veronica wasn't acting like someone confused. She was acting like someone certain. That was the terrifying part. 2 days later, she was back, brandishing a rolled-up blueprint. I'm commissioning a full geodetic survey next week. David Blackwood and Associates. It will be good for both of us to settle this officially. I trust you'll cooperate. It wasn't a request. It was a dare. And I took it. Sure, I said flatly. Let's see what the professionals say. I immediately called my attorney, Lena Ricci. After explaining the whole ridiculous situation, the blazer, the clipboard, the flags, Lena just sighed. New neighbor, God complex, bad sense of boundaries. You're 2 for 2, Ethan. Lena, thankfully, knew exactly what to do. She recommended a surveyor named Sam Jenkins, a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s who looked like she could bench press the entire history of Creekwood County. We walked the perimeter together, and when I mentioned Veronica's surveyor, David Blackwood, Sam paused. Blackwood? You're kidding. You know him? Unfortunately, Sam said, pulling down her glasses. Used to work for my old firm. Booted after an ethics complaint involving boundary manipulation. Not convicted, but blacklisted by every reputable firm around here. I'll tell you right now, Ethan, he's a specialist. A specialist? People who deliver the result the client wants, Sam explained, her tone grave. It happens especially when the client is a real estate broker who has friends in zoning. That night, a new sense of cold dread settled in. This wasn't just a neighbor spat over a fence line. This was a professional hit job for real estate dominance. The next morning was a circus. David Blackwood and his crew, all slick polos and mirrored sunglasses, showed up early. Veronica was hovering nearby, latte in hand, directing traffic like a hawk. Sam arrived 10 minutes later, cool as a glacier. She greeted Blackwood like a painful acquaintance. Still at it, David? Thought you were consulting these days. Blackwood's jaw tightened. Sam gave me a quick wink behind his back. The county officials, 2 guys from the city zoning office and a woman from the recorder's office, arrived shortly after. Apparently, the drama was loud enough downtown that they wanted an official final look. Veronica greeted them like they were potential buyers, all tight pantsuit and false civility. The surveying went on for hours, GPS logging, laser measurements, rechecking old markers. I leaned against my porch post, sipping coffee, trying to look bored, but my stomach was churning. Then about an hour in, the lead county surveyor, a bald guy with a thick notebook and a voice like gravel, stopped right in the middle of Veronica's manicured driveway. He waved over the recorder's representative. Hey, get over here, he called out. We got a shift. I took a step forward, but Sam's hand shot out, holding me back. She listened intently as the county team spoke in low, serious tones. Sam's eyebrows went up, slowly, steadily. She turned to me, a small, knowing smirk finally cracking her stoic face. Well, this should be interesting, Ethan, she said, whispering. It looks like the eastern corner of her brand new house. The foundation, the garage, the deck, and maybe a third of the master bedroom. They're all sitting on your land. I just stared at the manicured gravel, tried to process the impossible. I blinked. Come again. Your property line runs straight through her foundation, Sam confirmed, her voice now a low, satisfied rumble. At least 10 feet over the line. She has been planting flags, threatening lawsuits, citing ordinances, and the whole time, she was the one trespassing. I let out this sharp, humorless laugh. You're telling me her house is on my property? Roughly 15% of it, give or take, Sam concluded. And it's not a technicality. This is going on the official county record. Veronica noticed the huddle, of course. She marched over, her expression going from confident to deeply suspicious. Excuse me, what's going on here? The county rep turned to her, his face completely neutral. MS. Thorne, based on our findings, it appears a significant portion of your residence extends over Mr. Cole's property line. We will need to file an official encroachment report. For a second, she was silent. Her mind, I think, couldn't bridge the gap between her reality and the official one. Then, her face went a shade of red that should be illegal. That's impossible. I have the documents right here. David Blackwood's report clearly shows. The official held up a hand, cutting her off. We reviewed Mr. Blackwood's findings. They do not align with the county's historical records or the physical measurements we've taken today. That's when Sam stepped in, arms folded, like a benevolent angel of property rights. And I'd be real careful waving around that report, Veronica, because I recognize David's signature and it doesn't quite match the one on file with the licensing board. You're aware he was blacklisted? Veronica's eyes darted between us, frantic. You're accusing me of forgery? This is harassment. You're all working together. This is a setup. The county reps just sighed, the sigh of people who have seen this specific meltdown 100 times. Ms. Thorne, we are reporting what we found. If you dispute the results, file a formal objection. Otherwise, this is moving to zoning for next steps. She looked like she was about to explode into a plume of platinum hairspray. She stormed back to her glass box, muttering about lawyers. I watched her cross the grass that was legally mine, and just exhaled. Fun, I said to Sam. Oh, she's going to make your life hell now, Sam admitted, but at least she has to do it from the right side of the line. The official notice arrived 2 days later. It wasn't an apology. It was a lawsuit. She was suing me for equitable easement adjustments due to long-standing boundary ambiguity. Translation: she wanted the court to force me to sell her the land her house sat on, rather than make her tear down a third of her home. My lawyer, Lena, was furious. She poured herself a drink right there in my kitchen. She's not just doubling down, Ethan. She's trying to force a mutual resolution, banking on the court suggesting you sell. I looked out the window. The blinds in the glass box twitched. She's not acting alone, Lena. I saw the flyers. The Oak Knoll Management Group. The HOA Expansion Initiative. Our block wasn't in the HOA, but they were acting like it already was. Lena leaned forward, serious now. Are you saying they're bankrolling her? I'm saying someone wants my land, and she's the smiling face they sent to get it. A few nights later, the HOA president, a perfectly coiffed woman named Cheryl Sloan, showed up with 2 men in polos, handing me a brochure about community integration. I cut them off immediately. Did you help fund Veronica's lawsuit? Cheryl gave me the corporate shrug, but the flicker in her eyes was all I needed. I saw the trap. They wanted jurisdiction over my land so they could dictate terms. I told them to keep their paper and shut the door. That night, I realized we weren't in a property dispute anymore. We were in a coordinated land acquisition attempt. Let's go nuclear, Lena told me. I created a Google Drive folder titled HOA Coercion Evidence. I uploaded the county survey, Veronica's forged survey, the HOA flyers, and every photo I had. Then, I uploaded the kicker, the anonymous email I'd received containing internal memos between Veronica, Cheryl, and the HOA's legal team. It clearly outlined their strategy. Amplify perception of confusion. Push narrative Ethan Cole as difficult outsider. Support legal costs discreetly through MHC Housing Improvement Fund. I sent the link anonymously to 3 local journalists and posted it on Reddit under the title, HOA trying to steal my land by funding my neighbor's fake lawsuit. Here's proof. It went viral. 40,000 upvotes in 24 hours. I became the new poster boy for HOA overreach. Lena called me the next day, half laughing. You become a legal land influencer, Ethan. Be careful. Courts don't care about memes. She was right. The court cared about facts. The day of the hearing, the gallery was packed. Reporters, neighbors, and Veronica in a sharp navy suit, looking cornered. Her lawyer, a man who smelled of expensive panic, sat stiffly beside her. Lena was terrifying. Calm, controlled, razor sharp. She presented the evidence, the official survey, the zoning maps, the drone footage, and then the emails. When she read the part about the MHC fund discreetly backing Veronica's bills, the judge's brow finally creased. Veronica's lawyer objected, claiming the emails were unverifiable, possibly fabricated. That's when Lena dropped the hammer. She had subpoenaed the domain registrar. The IP address matched the HOA's internal management system. The emails were real. Boom. Then came the twist. David Blackwood, the crooked surveyor, was called to the stand. Not by us, but by the court. The licensing board had opened an investigation. Under oath, he tried to spin it, claiming it was just a preliminary draft. Lena slid a photo across the table, Blackwood stamped, signed survey, posted on Veronica's porch a week before the suit. He stammered, then cracked. She pushed me to do it, he whispered, his voice thin. She said the HOA would back her. No one would challenge it. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. The judge recessed. I walked out into a wall of flashbulbs, ignoring every question, but when I got home, there was a message on my machine, dry and shaky. It was Veronica's lawyer. We are interested in negotiating a settlement. I didn't reply. Lena drafted the response. No deal. No lease. No settlement. See you at trial. A week later, Veronica's team filed a motion to withdraw, citing irreconcilable differences and, tellingly, non-payment of fees. Her insurance had denied coverage due to fraud. The judge's final ruling was simple and brutal. Remove the encroaching structure within 90 days or pay market rate rent with back charges. Veronica had neither the money nor the time. The HOA went dark. Cheryl Sloan took a leave of absence. Their website redirected to a maintenance page. It was like someone had pulled the plug on a bad dream. On a cool Tuesday morning, I sat on my porch, sipping coffee, and watched as two contractors politely unbolted Veronica's garage door, piece by piece. They were just doing the math. You build where you don't own, you pay or you lose. By the end of the week, the corner of her house hung awkwardly in the air, a secret exposed to daylight. A month after the implosion, the glass box went on the market. Zillow caught the whispers. The listing had more cynical comments than offers. Eventually, a young couple, remote workers, bought the place. They were polite, enthusiastic, and clearly asked too few questions about the property's dramatic past. They came over with a six-pack one evening. We heard there was history with the lot, the guy said carefully. It's been handled, I grinned. 3 months later, the neighborhood was quiet. I spent most weekends in the yard that Veronica had tried to claim, now open, clean, and framed by a new fence I installed myself. Cedar, sturdy, with metal brackets sunk deep into the earth. Permanent. Legal. Defended. I decided to have some fun with it. One Saturday morning, I installed a custom-made sign on the new fence. It was solid brass, laser-etched, and maybe a little over the top. It read, "Private property. 0% encroachment since 2025. The new neighbors came over laughing within the hour. That's iconic, the guy said. Can we get t-shirts made? We fired up the grill. Other neighbors wandered over, a couple who brought coleslaw, another who brought a bottle of whiskey. Someone even placed a tiny toy bulldozer on the ground near the old boundary line and called it the HOA Memorial. As the sun set, I stood by that new fence, cold beer in hand. No more flags. No more suits. No more lies. Just land. Mine. Held not by aggression or trickery, but by the long, stubborn refusal to back down and the simple, undeniable truth of the survey map. And that's the thing about holding the line. When you finally win, it's not just about the property. It's about the peace. I'm curious, though, if you were in my place, after everything Veronica did, would you have settled, or would you have gone all the way to get every single square inch back? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me, what's the craziest thing a neighbor has ever tried to pull on you? Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about property rights gone wrong. Thanks for watching.